Sometimes silence isn't empty. It's where the truth finally speaks. My friends, let me tell you something real quick. There comes a moment in every person's life when staying silent longer than they planned becomes the most powerful thing they ever do. It doesn't feel powerful at first. It feels weird, uncomfortable, like you're standing in the middle of a room where the music suddenly stopped. But, oh my friends, that's exactly when everything starts to shift. Hey folks, imagine this for a second. Imagine you're holding a glass of water. Nothing special, just a glass. But you keep holding it. 5 minutes, no problem. 10 minutes, your wrist tightens. 15 minutes, your whole arm trembles. That little glass didn't get heavier. You just stopped reacting to the weight. That's what silence does. It doesn't change the truth. It reveals who can no longer carry it. People think silence is a weakness. They think being quiet means you gave up, or you didn't care, or you walked away because you had no fight left. But that's the lie we've been fed for years. The real truth, lean in for this, is that silence is where emotional strength grows its roots. It's where clarity sharpens its edges. It's where ego collapses because there's nothing left for it to argue with. Have you ever noticed how loud some people get when they realize they can't control you anymore? They act unbothered. They laugh a little too loudly. They post things meant to be seen accidentally. They pretend like they didn't notice your silence. But trust me, my friends, silence hits the ego harder than any argument ever could. It's like watching someone try to look relaxed while standing on a floor that's slowly sinking beneath them. They act calm, but every inch of their body is screaming, "What is going on?" Here's something I want you to remember. Ego hates silence because it cannot hide inside it. And the moment you stay quiet longer than they expected, you flip the entire power dynamic without saying a single word. The funny thing is, the silence that once made you anxious now becomes the very thing that exposes them. You're not playing games. You're not trying to manipulate anyone. You're simply choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, inner strength over emotional noise. That's maturity. That's growth. That's you stepping into a version of yourself they never believed you could become. My friends, life is a lot like walking through fog. When you're in the middle of it, you can't see anything. You panic, you wave your arms around, you try to figure out what's what. But when you stop moving, when you stand still, the fog starts to clear on its own. That's your silence. It clears what noise could never fix. It lets you see what was always there but too distracting to notice. And let me sprinkle a little fun truth here. Some people don't miss you. They miss the access they once had to you. It's not your smile or your energy they're craving, it's the control they lost. And when your silence lasts longer than their expectations, suddenly their imagination starts doing all the talking. That's when they start overthinking, replaying, second-guessing. That's their ego begging for the old version of you, the version that doesn't exist anymore. Stay silent long enough and watch how the ones who thought you'd always be there start realizing you were the blessing, not the backup plan. So keep moving with intention. Keep choosing yourself. Keep protecting your peace. And remember this as you walk forward. You are not losing anything. You are learning everything. Write this in the comments to seal it in. My silence is power. Hit the like button, subscribe, and stay with me. We're just getting started. Number 1. When your silence lasts longer than their illusions. Ego always assumes you'll return. Silence is how you prove you've evolved. My friends, there is a moment they never expect, and honestly, you don't fully expect it either. It's the moment your silence lasts longer than their story about you. In their mind, you're the one who always reaches out, always explains, always tries one more time. So when you go quiet, they don't panic at first. They treat it like a commercial break, not the end of the show. They think, they'll text soon, they always do. Their ego counts on your old pattern, like a script they've seen 100 times. Imagine you're watching someone juggle. At first, they use 3 balls, easy, then 4, then 5. Everyone claps, they look confident, but suddenly someone stops throwing new balls at them. The crowd goes silent. The juggler stands there waiting, arms ready, but nothing else comes. For a moment they still smile, still pose, still pretend they're in control. But after a few seconds, the truth shows up on their face. They needed the constant supply to keep the act going. That's exactly what your reactions were to their ego. Every time you chased, explained, defended, justified, you were tossing them another ball to keep their performance going. Your silence is the moment you stop throwing. Inside their mind, questions start forming, questions they pretend not to hear. Did I push too far? Are they actually done this time? Why aren't they chasing me like before? They won't say any of this out loud. On the outside, they act relaxed, unbothered, sometimes even smug. They'll post things to show they're living their best life. But silence has a way of turning their own thoughts into a mirror. The longer you stay quiet, the more those questions stop being whispers and start becoming alarms. Of course, my friends, this isn't easy for you. Let's be real. Silence sounds strong in quotes, but in real life, it can feel like walking across a bridge in the dark. Your mind races. You start wondering, what if they really don't care? What if I'm the only one hurting? What if my silence just makes me invisible? That fear is powerful because it feeds off old beliefs. Maybe you were taught that love is proven by how much you chase. Maybe you grew up thinking that setting boundaries means you're cold or selfish. Maybe you've been conditioned to prioritize their comfort over your peace. So, of course, when you go quiet, it feels wrong at first. Here is where we break the lie. The world tells you the one who reaches out first is the stronger one, the one who cares more, the one who wins. That's not always true. Sometimes the one who reaches out is just the one who is more scared of being alone. Sometimes the one who stays silent is not running away from love. They're walking away from disrespect. Silence doesn't always mean you don't care. It sometimes means you finally care about yourself too. Think of a lake on a windy day. The surface is choppy, restless, scattered. You can't see your reflection clearly. It's all broken up. That's what your life feels like when you keep reacting to every message, every mood swing, every breadcrumb they throw. But when the wind stops, when everything grows still, the water settles and reveals what was always there. That stillness is your silence. It gives you back your reflection. It lets you see yourself clearly again, not through their opinion, not through their inconsistency, but through your own honest eyes. Why do they assume you'll break first? Because history taught them that. You called back after conflicts. You forgave without real change. You showed up when they disappeared. You tried to prove your worth to someone who was using your effort as a cushion for their ego. They weren't afraid of losing you, not really. They were afraid of losing the version of you that tolerated what hurt you. That's why your silence scares them more than your anger ever did. Anger is loud. They can argue with it, twist it, paint you as overreacting. But silence gives them nothing to fight with. It just gives them themselves. And while they're slowly feeling the weight of that, something different is happening inside you. At first, it stings. You feel restless, tempted to break the silence just to feel some kind of connection again, even if it's unhealthy. But if you hold steady, something starts to change. You notice your mind getting a little clearer. Your energy slowly returns to you. Your day isn't entirely wrapped around waiting for their name to pop up on your screen. You begin to remember what life felt like before your emotions were tied to their approval. That's not coldness, that's healing. There's a quote I want you to hold on to. You don't gain power when they come back. You gain power when you no longer need them to. That's what staying silent longer than their illusions really does. It's not about punishing them or playing games. It's about stepping out of a role that was draining you. It's about refusing to be the emotional safety net for someone who never offered you one in return. It's about choosing the discomfort of growth over the comfort of repetition. Is it difficult? Yes. Growth always is. It means letting go of the fantasy that if I just say the right thing, they'll finally understand. It means accepting that some people heard you the first 100 times, they just didn't care enough to change. Your silence isn't because you have nothing to say. It's because you finally realized they have nothing new to offer. So the next time your fear whispers, maybe I should reach out just to check, I want you to remember what's actually happening. They're not living in some clean, peaceful silence while you suffer alone. Their ego is dealing with a new reality. The person they thought would always chase has learned how to stand still, and that unsettles them more than you can imagine. Stay with me, because in the next part, we're going even deeper into what starts happening inside them. When your silence doesn't just last, it starts exposing the cracks in their confidence. For now, I want you to lock in this truth and make it real. Write this in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you. I will outlast their ego. Number 2. When silence outlasts their games. Games only work on people who still feel the need to play. My friends, this is where things start getting interesting. At first, they don't see your silence as strength. They see it as an opportunity. They think, okay, let's see how far I can push this. They've gotten used to using tension, distance, and mixed signals like strings on a puppet. They pull, you move. They disappear, you panic. They come back, you soften. This is the cycle that keeps their ego fed. But when your silence doesn't crack, when it outlasts the little tricks they've relied on, their confidence doesn't stay as calm as they pretend it is. Imagine a person standing in front of a vending machine. They've been using it for years. They punch in the code, press the button, and their favorite snack always drops. One day they walk up, press the same code, and nothing happens. They frown, press it again. Still nothing. Now they start hitting the sides, pressing harder, tapping the glass, staring at it like it betrayed them. The machine hasn't changed. It simply stopped responding. That's you when you withdraw your reactions. You're no longer the reliable vending machine for their attention, validation, and emotional supply. And just like that confused customer, they start to get frustrated, not because they love the machine, but because it's not doing what they're used to. So what do? They start playing their usual games. A random like in your photo, a vague story post designed to catch your eye, a funny meme that pops up after weeks of silence, a harmless, "Hey stranger" text that appears out of nowhere. All of it is reaction bait. They're not reaching out to rebuild, they're reaching out to measure. They want to know, do I still have access? Do I still have that pull? They're not checking on your heart, they're checking on their power. And here's where your mind tries to trick you. You see their name light up your screen and your chest tightens. Your brain starts racing. What if this time they're serious? What if this is the moment they finally admit they were wrong? What if my silence worked and now we can fix everything? Hope slips in, mixed with fear. You go back and forth, reading into every emoji, every dot, every word they chose and didn't choose. That's the part of you that still believes their games mean something deeper than they actually do. Let's be brutally honest here, my friends. If someone really respects you, they don't test your emotional availability like a lab experiment. They don't disappear to see if you'll chase, then reappear when they're bored or lonely. They don't wait until you detach to suddenly find interest. That's not love. That's not care. That's control dressed up as chemistry. We're breaking that lie today. Think of a cat with a laser pointer. The cat isn't in love with the red dot. It's just reacting, jumping, chasing, spinning. If the red dot stops moving, the game ends, and the cat eventually wanders off. Some people treat your emotions the same way. They flash attention, affection, and curiosity just long enough to make you chase. Your silence is the moment you stop running after the laser. You realize the power wasn't in the dot. It was in your willingness to follow it. Why is this so hard to accept? Because part of you wants to believe their games had meaning. You want to believe the mixed signals were secretly deep. You want to believe their hot and cold behavior came from some hidden wound that you could heal if you just loved hard enough. It's painful to sit with the possibility that it wasn't that deep for them. Maybe it wasn't some epic soul bond, but just emotional entertainment they got used to. That realization can sting more than the silence itself. But here's the liberating part. Once you accept that their games were never worthy of your heart, your silence stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like protection. You're not withholding to hurt them. You're detaching to save yourself. You're no longer available for their experiments. You're no longer giving front-row access to someone who only shows up when they want to test their impact. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. And while you're choosing that clarity, they're getting more restless than they'll ever admit. The old tricks are not landing. The little accidental interactions are not pulling you like they used to. You're slower to respond, or you don't respond at all. Your tone is calmer, neutral, grounded. You're not giving them emotional fireworks. You're giving them a quiet sky. And ego hates a quiet sky. It wants thunder, drama, lightning, anything it can point to and say, "See, I still matter that much." Your stillness forces them to face a harsh truth. Their usual games don't work on the person you're becoming. This, my friends, is where emotional growth feels awkward but powerful. You might feel guilty for not reacting. You might question whether you're being cold. You might even miss the chaos for a moment, because chaos at least felt familiar. But every time you choose not to step back into that performance, you're teaching yourself something new. You're learning that you don't have to answer every knock at your emotional door. You're allowed to look through the peephole and say, "No, this energy doesn't enter here anymore." There's a quote I want you to carry with you. Your peace is not a toy. Whoever treats it like a game should lose access to it. When your silence outlasts their games, that's exactly what you're doing. You're taking the controller out of their hands and unplugging from the system entirely. You're not standing by waiting for the next level. You've left the console and walked outside into real life. And here's the beautiful twist. The longer you stay in this new space, the more you realize you don't miss the game at all. You miss the idea of what it could have been, not what it actually was. You begin to enjoy mornings where your mood isn't tied to their messages, evenings where your mind isn't replaying what they said and what you should have replied, days where you invest your energy into people who don't make you guess your place in their life. Stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to dive into the moment their ego actually starts to panic. When it clicks for them that your silence isn't a trick, it's the truth. That's when things go from interesting to eye-opening. For now, I want you to stamp this into your spirit and into the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you. I'm done playing their game. Number 3. The ego's quiet panic. Silence doesn't shout the truth. It lets the truth shout inside them. My friends, this is the part no one sees on the outside, but it's exactly where everything starts to shift on the inside of them. On the surface, they're still playing it cool. They're posting, laughing, living life, pretending nothing is wrong. But deep down, there's a quiet panic starting to grow, the kind that doesn't show up in selfies or status updates. It shows up in the way their thoughts won't leave them alone when the world finally goes quiet. Your silence is no longer just a phase in their mind. It's starting to feel like a reality they can't control, and that loss of control makes their ego tremble. At first, they try to tell themselves the same story they've always believed. They're just being dramatic. They'll come back. They always come back. They repeat that script like a mantra, almost to soothe themselves. But as time passes and you still don't reach out, those words lose their power. The certainty they once had in your reaction collapses. It's like someone turned off the GPS in the middle of the drive, and now every turn feels wrong. They keep checking the rearview mirror, asking themselves questions they never wanted to ask. Did they misjudge you? Did they go too far? Did they just lose something they can't replace? Imagine standing in a room full of mirrors, each one reflecting a slightly different angle of you. At first, they admire themselves. They like the reflection they see when you're still chasing, still explaining, still available. That reflection tells them, you're desired, you're important, you have the power. But when you go silent and stay silent, those mirrors start changing. The angles shift. What once looked like control now looks like avoidance. What once felt like confidence now feels like carelessness. Your silence doesn't just remove you from their daily life. It rearranges the way they see themselves. The ego hates that. The ego survives on stories, and your silence is editing their script without their permission. They may start overcompensating, staying out later, distracting themselves with other people, diving deeper into work, social media, entertainment, anything that keeps them from sitting still. Because sitting still means thinking. Thinking means feeling. Feeling means facing the possibility that they weren't as invincible as they pretended to be. They might tell their friends, "Nah, I'm good. It is what it is." But then they go home, the door closes, the noise fades, and suddenly the room feels bigger and emptier than it used to. That's where the panic rises, quiet but relentless. Your silence becomes the question they can't answer. Why aren't you reacting? Why aren't you chasing? Why aren't you keeping the door open just in case? They test little things. They check if you viewed their story. They scroll your profile to see if your life looks different. They wait for some sign that you're still emotionally available, that they still have that invisible string tied to your heart. And every time they don't find what they're looking for, a tiny piece of their certainty crumbles. It doesn't fall all at once. It chips away. That's how ego really breaks. Not in a dramatic explosion, but in a series of small moments where reality refuses to match the story it wants to believe. And while they're feeling that slow burn, you're starting to step into something they never expected. Stability. The quiet that once made your chest feel tight starts to feel like fresh air. You're still healing, still processing, still hurting at times, but beneath all that, there's a new kind of strength forming. You begin to understand something important. Their response or lack of response does not define your worth. For so long, their attention felt like proof that you mattered. Now you're starting to see that your value exists, even when their phone is silent too. There's a powerful truth in this stage. The panic they feel now is the same panic you used to carry. The difference is that you let it transform you. You let it push you towards self-awareness, toward boundaries, toward calm. Their ego tried to dodge that process by keeping you in a loop, keeping you reacting, keeping you emotionally hooked. But your silence broke that loop. Now the feelings they once avoided are knocking at their door, and there's no version of you on the other side to absorb it for them. Why do they spiral internally when you don't move? Because your stillness highlights what's unsteady inside them. When someone thrives on control, the most terrifying thing isn't losing you. It's losing the ability to influence you. Your silence is proof that their emotional grip is gone. The games aren't landing, the hints aren't working. The ego is being forced to admit what it never wanted to. They didn't just lose a person, they lost access to peace they didn't know how to handle. My friends, that doesn't mean you sit there hoping they're in pain. Stoicism isn't about secretly celebrating someone's breakdown. It's about understanding this. You are no longer responsible for protecting their ego at the cost of your own healing. The panic they feel now is between them and the truth. You don't have to rescue them from it. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to break your silence just to make their discomfort softer. Your job now is to protect your peace, honor your growth, and stay grounded in the person you are becoming. So as their ego whispers, "What if I really lost them?" your spirit is learning to say, "What if I finally found myself?" That's the shift. That's the quiet turning point where their panic and your clarity cross paths, headed in opposite directions. Stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to go even deeper into what happens when the truth they tried to outrun starts rearranging their entire inner world. For now, stamp this into your mind and into the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you. My calm exposes their chaos. Number 4. The truth. They tried to escape. Begins to rearrange them. The truth doesn't chase you. It just waits for the moment you run out of places to hide. My friends, this is where things get uncomfortable for them in a way no one else can see. Up until now, they've been able to dodge the truth. They hid it under jokes, buried it under distractions, drowned it in noise, and wrapped it in that favorite blanket of the ego, denial. As long as you were reacting, explaining, reaching out, they could keep telling themselves a nice little story. They'll always be there. I didn't really lose anything. I can go back whenever I want. But there comes a point where your silence stays long enough that the story stops working. The truth they've been avoiding doesn't just knock on the door, it starts rearranging the furniture in their mind. Imagine a house that hasn't been cleaned in years. At first it looks okay on the surface, cushions fluffed, candles lit, nice photos on the walls, but open a closet and everything they didn't want to deal with comes crashing out. Old boxes, broken things, dusty memories, that's their inner world. Throughout the whole situation, they kept shoving things inside mental closets. Guilt, regret, the times they knew they went too far, the messages they ignored, the conversations they avoided, the kindness they took advantage of. As long as you were still available, they could keep those doors shut. But your silence. That's the day the hinges finally give out and everything tumbles into the middle of the room. They start remembering small moments they brushed off at the time, the look on your face when they dismissed your feelings, the night you stayed up just to talk them through their problems while they couldn't be bothered to check in on yours, the times they needed space but expected you to be ready the second they returned. These aren't dramatic movie scenes. They're quiet details that replay in their mind like a film they can't pause. And the longer your silence lasts, the more those scenes line up, forming a pattern they can't ignore. They weren't as innocent as they pretended to be. Of course, they don't like this realization. Who does? It's hard for the ego to admit. I had someone solid and I mishandled them. So they fight the truth at first. They blame you in their head. They were too sensitive. They took things too seriously. They knew how I am. They cling to excuses like a shield, but excuses can't hold off reality forever. Every time they scroll back through old messages, every time they see how patient you were, how much effort you brought, how many chances you gave, the shield gets a little thinner. The truth starts leaking through the cracks. You weren't asking for too much, they were giving too little. This is the part where they start to feel something they didn't expect. Regret, not as a dramatic breakdown, but as a low, steady ache that follows them around. In the shower, at red lights, lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling while their mind connects dots they wish it wouldn't. They thought they could skip the part where they feel the loss, but your silence makes sure they don't. It doesn't scream at them. It doesn't send angry paragraphs. It just removes the cushion. Now when they fall, they hit the floor. Meanwhile, you're probably still wrestling with your own thoughts. A part of you might wonder, do they even care? Are they just fine without me? Did they really just move on like nothing happened? That's the lie your pain tries to sell you, that if they're quiet, they feel nothing. But the reality is more complex. Many people are experts at performing "I'm fine" while secretly rearranging their entire emotional universe behind closed doors. They won't post, "I messed up." They won't admit, "I lost something real." Their ego will never let those words leave their mouth. But that doesn't stop the truth from sitting on their chest when they're alone. Think of truth like gravity. You can pretend it's not there. You can jump, dance, climb, distract yourself. But eventually, you always come back down. The truth that they mishandled you, that they played games with someone who actually cared, that they took stability and turned it into confusion. Gravity pulls all of that back toward them. Your silence is just the space that allows that fall to happen. You're no longer there to catch them with, "It's okay, I understand, I forgive you," before they've even processed what they did. Why is this rearranging so hard for them? Because it threatens their identity. They like seeing themselves as the one in control, the strong one, the unbothered one. Admitting they miss you, that you mattered, that they were wrong, means tearing up that identity and starting again. That's terrifying for an ego that's built entirely on image. So they bargain with themselves. It wasn't that serious. We both made mistakes. It would have ended anyway. But deep down, they know some of those lines are just emotional band-aids trying to cover a cut that needs stitches. While all this is happening on their side, something very different is happening on yours. The same silence that is exposing their truth is also revealing yours. You're beginning to realize you weren't too much. You were just giving what they weren't ready to hold. You're starting to see that your loyalty, your effort, your love were not weaknesses. They were strengths offered to the wrong person. That awareness rearranges you too, but in a healing way. You're not shrinking yourself to fit people anymore. You're growing into the person who will no longer tolerate confusion disguised as connection. Here's the beautiful part. You don't have to watch their inner rearranging for it to be real. Stoicism teaches you to focus on what you can control, your reactions, your choices, your peace. The truth working on them is not your project. You don't need to manage their guilt, guide their growth, or monitor their regret. That's between them and the mirror they've been avoiding. Your focus now is becoming the person who won't accept less than respect, clarity, and consistency. So yes, the truth is rearranging them. It's moving the furniture of their ego, flipping the lights on in rooms they kept dark, dragging the boxes out of the closet they swore they'd never open. They might laugh louder for a while. They might distract themselves harder. But at the end of the day, when it's quiet, your absence and their actions sit in the same room. And no matter how much they try to spin it, they know something real was lost on their watch. Stay with me, Because in the next part we're going to talk about what happens when that rearranged truth finally cracks the illusion of control they thought they had over you and over themselves. That's when the whole dynamic flips. For now, write this in the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you. The truth is rearranging them. Number 5. The illusion of control collapses. Control isn't real power, it's just fear wearing confidence as a mask. My friends, this is the part they never expect to reach. For the longest time, they believed they had control over the dynamic. Not because they were stronger or wiser, but because they thought they understood your patterns better than you did. They knew which words triggered you. They knew how long to disappear before you started reaching out. They knew that no matter how badly they handled your heart, you'd still pick up the emotional pieces and try again. That wasn't love. That was comfort, built on the illusion of control. Your silence is the moment that illusion starts to crack. At first, it's subtle. They send something light, casual, a hey that costs them nothing. When you don't jump, they tell themselves you're just busy. Then they try again. Maybe with a memory, an inside joke, a song, something they think will tug at your feelings. When you still don't move the way you used to, something inside them shifts. It's like a magician going to pull a rabbit out of the hat and realizing in front of the crowd the hat is empty. The trick only worked as long as the setup stayed the same. You changed the setup. Think of them like someone holding a remote, pressing buttons that used to control the TV. Volume up, volume down, power on, power off. For years it worked. They pressed, you reacted. Now they press and nothing happens. They shake the remote, press harder, point it closer, maybe even hit it against their hand. Still nothing. The batteries are dead. The TV is no longer responding. Eventually, they're forced to face the truth. The remote never had magic in it. The power was always in the device choosing to respond. That device was you. Inside their mind, this is a scary realization. It means they were never as in control as they believed. It means the sense of power they felt wasn't real. It was borrowed from your reactions, your emotions, your willingness to keep the cycle alive. So when your silence keeps stretching, they feel something they don't want to admit. Powerless. Not because they lost a toy or a game, but because they're finally seeing how much of their confidence depended on whether they could move you. Of course, this is not easy for you either. There are moments when you feel that pull, the old instinct to respond, to prove you're not cold, to show you're still kind, still caring, still available. You might think, maybe I'm being too harsh, maybe I should just reply so things aren't weird. That's the old conditioning speaking. You were trained to think preserving their comfort is more important than protecting your peace. You were taught to believe that if they feel out of control, you must calm them by sacrificing your boundaries. We're breaking that belief right here. The illusion of control collapsing is not your crisis. It's theirs. Stoicism doesn't ask you to rescue every ego that trembles when faced with consequences. Stoicism asks you to be honest with yourself. Ask, what happens to me when I keep giving them access? Do I feel safe? Do I feel respected? Do I feel seen? If the answer is no, then your silence is not cruelty. It's alignment. It's you stepping back from a rigged game and saying, I'm not playing with loaded dice anymore. They will feel this shift, whether they admit it or not. They might react by trying harder for a bit. More messages, more little hooks designed to draw you back into familiar territory. Or they might pretend not to care at all, acting like they've upgraded, moved on, found better. Both are reactions to the same thing. Their old sense of control is slipping through their fingers. Your calm, your non-reactiveness, your discipline. These things stand in front of them like a locked gate where there used to be a revolving door. Imagine the tide going out at the beach. When the water is high, it covers everything. You can't see the rocks, the shells, the debris. It all looks smooth, endless and beautiful. But when the tide pulls back, the truth of the shore is exposed. Jagged stones, broken glass, things that were always there but hidden. Your silence is that low tide. It pulls back the emotional water and reveals what was underneath the whole time. Their selfishness, their games, their dependence on your reactions to feel important. For the first time, even they have to look at the mess they left behind. And here's something important, my friends. When the illusion of control collapses for them, something powerful is rising in you. You start realizing you are not as fragile as you once thought. You can survive their silence. You can survive not explaining yourself. You can survive not being understood by someone who never tried in the first place. That realization is the start of your true power. Real control is not about making someone bend to your emotions. It's about mastering your emotions so no one can bend you. It will still feel uncomfortable at times. The mind loves old habits, even when they hurt. You might have nights where you wonder if you did the right thing. You might feel tempted to reach out just to relieve the tension, but every time you choose not to, you are teaching your spirit something new. You don't have to surrender your self-respect to avoid sitting in discomfort. You can sit in the silence and let it sharpen you instead of break you. There's a quote I want you to hold close. You don't lose control when they stop chasing you. You gain control when you stop needing them too. That's the heart of this stage. Their illusion of control collapses at the exact same time your reality of self-control is born. You're no longer reacting to keep peace that only existed on the surface. You're choosing inner peace, even if it shakes the ground under their feet. Stay with me, because in the next part we're going to talk about how your stillness doesn't just collapse their illusion of control. It starts exposing the chaos they've been hiding under their performance. That's when the contrast between your calm and their turmoil becomes impossible to ignore. For now, I want you to carve this into the comments. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you. I choose my power back. Number 6. Your stillness exposes their chaos. Sometimes the calmest person in the room is the one who has already won the battle no one else knows about. My friends, this is the part where the contrast becomes impossible to hide. On the outside, they might still be trying to put on a show. Louder laughs, busier weekends, more posts, more noise. They want the world to see that they are fine, unbothered, thriving. But the more your energy pulls back into yourself, the more that performance starts to look like exactly what it is, a performance. Your stillness doesn't just protect you, it quietly exposes how unsettled they really are inside. Imagine two houses during a storm. One is built on solid rock, windows sealed, foundations deep. The other looks nice from the outside, but the walls are thin and the roof was never finished properly. When the wind hits, both houses feel it, but only one starts rattling. That's the difference between you and them now. You still feel emotions, of course. You're human, but your silence, your restraint, your decision not to engage in every argument or respond to every bait has turned you into that solid house. Their life, built on attention, performance and control, starts to shake the moment you stop feeding it. They might try to copy your calm. They might talk like they're at peace, throw around words like healed and unbothered, but energy doesn't lie. When your stillness is real, it doesn't need an audience. It shows up in the way you move, the way you don't rush to respond, the way you're no longer obsessed with what they think. Meanwhile, their chaos leaks through the cracks. They check your profile more than they'd admit. They replay old conversations. They bring your name up just to pretend you don't matter. That's not peace. That's noise, trying to cover the silence you left behind. And here's the beautiful twist, my friends. Your stillness is not about them anymore. It started because of them, but it continues because of you. You begin to notice you're sleeping better. Your thoughts are clearer. You find joy in simple moments again. A walk, a song, a quiet morning where your first thought isn't about who texted or who didn't. You realize that life feels lighter without their chaos sitting in the center of your mind. That's when you truly see it. Your silence wasn't empty. It was making room for you. They feel that shift, even if they never say it. They feel the distance. They feel the loss of access. They feel the way your energy no longer bends around theirs. Your stillness throws their inner storm into sharp focus. And while their ego might try to pretend it's all nothing, a deeper part of them knows they are not as steady as you are now. That awareness is its own kind of mirror. So don't underestimate what your calm is doing. It is not a weakness. It is not avoidance. It is maturity. It is you choosing to respond to life from a place of strength instead of reaction. It is you saying without a single word, I will not let your chaos live rent-free in my soul anymore. If this spoke to you, my friends, let's make it real. Write this in the comments to anchor it in your spirit and show yourself. Show them. Show the world around you. My calm is my advantage. And if this message helped you breathe a little easier today, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to remember their silence is powerful too. Stay with me. We're just getting started on your rise.